Hi, I'm Emma. She read his messages. The silence was heavy. Let's get into it. The silence in the apartment wasn't empty. It was heavy, pressing against my eardrums with a weight that felt like a physical hand trying to crush me. I was standing in the middle of our bedroom, my phone screen glowing with the harsh blue light of a notification I had been waiting to see for 3 years, and yet, seeing it now felt like a physical blow to the gut. On the screen was a receipt from a high-end furniture store, dated last Tuesday, for a dining set that cost more than my entire annual salary, but the date on the receipt wasn't the only thing that shattered my world. Attached to the photo was a text message from a contact labeled, Sarah, which read, "Can't wait for you to bring the new table home tomorrow. We need to set it up before your wife gets back from her weekend trip." My wife, Elena, was supposed to be on that trip. She was currently in Chicago for a sister's wedding, 200 miles away, where I had personally booked her flights and packed her bags myself. I had told her I was going to the office to work late, but I wasn't at the office. I was standing in our home, staring at the evidence that the man I called my best friend had been buying a life for himself in this very house, in our very bed, while I was playing the role of the devoted husband who had no idea his wife was being replaced by another woman. I dropped the phone. It clattered on the hardwood floor, the sound echoing like a gunshot in the quiet room. I looked around the bedroom, at the framed photos of us smiling on our 5th anniversary, the little vase I'd bought her for no reason other than because she liked the color, and I felt a cold, terrifying clarity wash over me. But this relationship didn't end in a single moment. It ended slowly, over time, buried under layers of excuses and missed warnings. And to understand how we got here, you need to know how it began. We met in the most cliché way possible, in a coffee shop that smelled too much of burnt espresso and cinnamon, a place where everyone pretended to be working while actually scrolling through dating apps. Elena was a graphic designer who could turn a blank page into a masterpiece, and I was an architectural project manager who spent my days drawing lines on blueprints that would never be built. She spilled her latte on my shirt, apologized profusely, and then laughed at her own clumsiness, a sound that was so bright and unself-conscious that it cut through the noise of the crowd. In those early days, she was my anchor. She had this uncanny ability to listen, really listen, to my stories about stressful clients and impossible deadlines, treating every problem I had like it was a puzzle she was determined to solve with me. We fell in love with a speed that felt reckless, a blur of late-night drives and shared takeout, where the world outside our window ceased to exist. I remember the first time I looked at her and felt a surge of absolute certainty, that this was the person I wanted to build a future with, someone who made me feel like I was enough just for being me. The early months were a golden age of vulnerability. She told me about her fears of abandonment, and I told her about my father's strictness, and we built a fortress of trust around ourselves. But looking back, I can see the first small cracks, subtle enough to miss in the haze of new love, but obvious in hindsight. It started with her phone habits. She was always quick to lock her screen when I walked into a room, a defensive reflex that she quickly dismissed as privacy, a boundary she needed to maintain. We joked about it, saying we were both a little paranoid, but the laughter felt a bit forced. Then there were the hours she spent at the office, working late, days that turned into weeks where she would come home exhausted, claiming her boss was impossible to deal with, while I was home wondering why she never wanted to talk about her work projects, only the stress of them. I told myself I was being sensitive, that she was just overworked, that the golden age of us required some sacrifice. I rationalized her distance as the natural cooling of passion after the honeymoon phase, telling myself that every long-term relationship had its lulls. I wanted to believe that her silence was just her being tired, not hiding something, because the alternative was too terrifying to consider. The deterioration didn't happen with a bang, but with a series of quiet, suffocating exhales. It was a slow-motion crash that happened over 18 months, a period where the warmth between us was gradually replaced by a chilling tension. The arguments became less about specific issues and more about tone and timing. I remember one particular evening in November, a rainy Tuesday, where I had come home early from a cancelled site inspection to cook us dinner, hoping to reconnect. Elena was on the couch, her laptop open, her face illuminated by the glow of the screen. When I sat down beside her, she didn't look up, just kept typing with a furrowed brow, muttering something about a client emergency. I asked her if we could talk, about how distant she'd been, about how I felt like I was living with a roommate. She snapped, "If you're going to nitpick my schedule, then don't come home early," and stormed off to the bedroom. That was the night we almost ended it. I drove to a hotel across town, sitting in my car for an hour, debating whether to come back and fight or to just leave. I decided to fight, because the fear of losing her was worse than the fear of the fight. I came back, she opened the door, we talked for 3 hours until sunrise, and we made up, promising to do better, promising to communicate. But the promise felt hollow. Over the next few months, the rationalizations became my daily bread. I told myself she was just stressed about her promotion, that she was trying to secure our financial future, that her secrecy was just her way of protecting us from bad news. I found myself walking on eggshells, tiptoeing around her moods, editing my own words before I spoke them, terrified that one wrong comment would trigger another explosion. I started checking my own phone less, making sure I wasn't the one hiding things, convincing myself that if I was perfect, she would open up. I convinced myself that her occasional late nights were necessary sacrifices for our marriage, that the money she was saving was for a house we would buy together someday. I ignored the way she would flinch when I touched her shoulder, the way she would change the channel when I tried to watch a show we used to watch together. I told myself that love meant enduring the hard times, that it meant giving her space to work through her issues, that my patience was a virtue. But deep down, a small, nagging voice was screaming that I was being used, that I was the one being erased, and that the woman I loved was slowly disappearing, leaving behind a stranger who knew how to lie better than she knew how to love. And then, the betrayal revealed itself in the most mundane, devastating way possible. The lie wasn't just about an affair, it was a complete fabrication of a separate life, a double existence that had been running parallel to our marriage for over 2 years. Elena wasn't just having an affair, she was building a new life with a man named Mark, a real estate developer she had met at a charity gala the year before our anniversary. The affair started as a fling, a moment of weakness she claimed she regretted immediately, but it evolved into something far more calculated. For 2 years, she would tell me she was working late, driving to her sister's in the suburbs, or staying at a friend's place, only to be meeting Mark at a small apartment she had rented under a fake name she had created using a friend's identity. She was hiding the extent of their relationship, downplaying their time together, telling me they were just business partners discussing a joint investment. But the receipt I found, the one that shattered everything, was just the tip of the iceberg. The financial deception was the true horror. Over the course of the 2 years, she had been siphoning money from our joint savings account, claiming it was for business expenses related to a design project she said was going viral. She told me she needed the funds to secure a down payment on a condo she was planning to buy with Mark, a condo she claimed was in her name but was actually paid for with our life savings. The moment it unraveled wasn't dramatic. It was a mundane Tuesday afternoon when I decided to check the bank statement because I wanted to see the balance for a new car I was considering. I saw the transfers, the dates, the amounts, and the recipient names that didn't match any of her business clients. I traced the money, and it led directly to that furniture store, the same store where Mark had bought a dining set for their new apartment. I went to her office the next day, not to confront her, but to see if she would lie again. I waited in her lobby, watching her come out, laughing with a colleague, looking radiant and free. When I called her name, she froze, the color draining from her face, and for a moment, I saw the truth in her eyes, a look of pure terror that she was about to lose everything. I walked up to her, showed her the bank statement, and asked her why she lied. She didn't deny it. She didn't cry. She just looked at me, her voice trembling as she admitted, "I needed to get out." I felt trapped. Mark understood me, he was the one who made me feel like I mattered. She told me that the affair was the only thing that made her feel alive, that our marriage had become a prison, and that she had been planning to leave me for months, waiting for the right time to tell me. She didn't tell me about the apartment, about the money, or the 2 years of lies. She just wanted to get away. What happened after the discovery was a spiral into a darkness I didn't know existed. The first week was a blur of rage, denial, and bargaining. I threw things, I screamed, I begged her to come back, to promise me it was over, to delete the other man's number, to give me back the life we had. She did none of those things. She sat on the couch, silent, refusing to engage, refusing to take responsibility. I told my brother, then my mother, then a few close friends. The reactions were a mix of shock, anger, and a disturbing amount of defensiveness. My mother, usually the most supportive, told me I must have pushed her too far, that I was too controlling, that I made her feel like she couldn't breathe. My brother, the one person I thought would be on my side, said, "You need to be the bigger person, man. She's hurting, maybe you need to talk to her about why she's so unhappy." It was the most isolating moment of my life. I felt like the world was conspiring to make me the villain of my own story. I was alone in my apartment, surrounded by boxes of our shared belongings, packed and ready to be moved to storage, but I didn't want to leave. I just wanted to know why. The loneliest moment came on a rainy Sunday, 2 weeks after the discovery. I was sitting on the floor of the empty living room, staring at the spot where the dining set was supposed to go, the one she had bought for her new life with Mark. I realized then that it was truly over. The love was gone, replaced by a cold, hard realization that I had been playing a role in a play where the other actress had already left the stage. I didn't decide to try again. I didn't make a grand gesture. I just made a quiet decision to walk away, to take back my life, to stop waiting for a miracle that wasn't coming. I filed for divorce the next day, and for the first time in 2 years, I felt a strange sense of peace. The pain was still there, sharp and fresh, but the confusion was gone. I knew who I was dealing with. I knew the truth. And I knew that I deserved better than a life built on lies. To understand the full weight of this tragedy, we have to look at the situation from both sides, to see the human beings behind the betrayal. From my perspective, I was the victim of a calculated deception that stripped me of my dignity and my future. I loved Elena with a ferocity that I thought was reciprocated. I saw her as my partner, my soulmate, the person I wanted to grow old with. I gave her everything, my trust, my money, my time, and I got nothing but a facade in return. I missed the signs, yes, but I missed them because I was desperate to believe in us. I rationalized her behavior because I was afraid of the truth. I ignored the red flags because I wanted to save the marriage. I didn't do anything wrong by loving her, by wanting to make things work. But from Elena's perspective, she was a woman who felt trapped and unseen. She told me later, in a rare moment of clarity, that she felt suffocated by the expectations of our relationship, that she felt like she was living someone else's life. She believed that Mark made her feel alive, that he was the one who listened to her, who validated her. She told herself that she didn't hurt me on purpose, that she was trying to find herself, that she needed to escape the monotony of our marriage. She justified her lies as a way to protect herself, to carve out a space where she felt like she mattered. She didn't tell me about the money, about the apartment, because she was terrified of the confrontation, of the fallout. She wanted to leave without the messy fight, without the guilt. She told herself that I would understand eventually, that I would see her side of the story. But she was wrong. She didn't see the cost of her actions, the devastation she caused. She was so focused on her own pain that she couldn't see the pain she was inflicting on me. And I, in turn, was so focused on the pain I felt that I couldn't see her pain, or the reasons behind her actions. We were both trapped, in different ways, in a relationship that had lost its way. So, guilty or not? This is the question we have to face. Is Elena purely guilty, a villain who stole my life and destroyed my trust for her own selfish gain? Or is the situation more complicated than it appears? Was she a victim of a stifling relationship, a woman who made a terrible choice in a desperate attempt to find herself? Was I entirely blameless, or did I contribute to the distance that drove her away? There is no simple answer. Elena is undeniably guilty of infidelity, of financial deception, of years of lying. She broke the fundamental contracts of our marriage. She chose to destroy what we had for a fleeting feeling of vitality. But she is also a human being who felt unseen and unheard. She made a choice, a bad one, but a choice that came from a place of deep emotional distress. Was I blameless? I cannot say I am innocent. I ignored the signs, I rationalized her behavior, I allowed the relationship to drift into a place where she felt she had no choice but to run. I failed to see her pain until it was too late. But I did not betray her. I did not lie to her. I did not build a secret life behind her back. I loved her, even when she stopped loving me. So, is she guilty? Yes. Is she the only guilty party? Maybe not. Is the situation complicated? Absolutely. Love, lies, and hard choices. You decide. So, what do you think? Was Elena a villain who destroyed a marriage for a fleeting feeling, or was she a victim of a relationship that failed to meet her needs? Have you ever been in a situation where you had to choose between staying and leaving, where the line between right and wrong felt so blurry that you couldn't tell which way was up? I want to hear your thoughts, your stories, your verdicts. Drop a comment below and tell me where you stand. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever felt the pain of a betrayal or the confusion of a crumbling relationship, please hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the complexities of love and loyalty. We have a new story coming up next week that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about trust. Until then, remember that even in the darkest moments, there is always a choice to be made, and sometimes, the bravest choice is the one that sets you free. Stay safe, stay strong, and keep telling your stories.